Welcome to Daily Life Connection. Thanks for joining us again today. I'm going to start what I think is going to be a little bit of a series on the God of grace. The God of grace. Today I want to talk about grace means God makes the first move. God makes the first move. When we read the wonderful story in Exodus of how God delivered his people from Egypt, it is an incredible picture of the grace of God. God made the first move. He didn't send Moses to Egypt to tell the people, now these are the things you need to do and then I'll set you free. He didn't come with a list of commandments. He didn't give them commandments until after he had set them free. He came to them and declared, God has heard your prayers and God is moving on your behalf. God is making the first move. That's just an incredible description of grace, isn't it? God makes the first move. You know, when we look at the Old Covenant, we see so often that it's if you, then God. That's the covenant of law, not the covenant of grace. The covenant of law says that it's up to us to make the first move, and then God will respond graciously, mercifully, and so on. Grace tells us, and of course Jesus is the ultimate example of that, isn't he? He came, he made the first move to establish the new covenant. He's the one who came to earth, peace on earth, goodwill to men. Grace has come upon you and among you. In John chapter 1, it talks about, down in I think it's about verse 14, we have all received from his fullness grace for grace already given, grace upon grace. Jesus coming is God's demonstration of making the first move. It's a wonderful thing because it sets us free from worrying that God won't act on our behalf unless we perform in a certain way. Isn't that good news? It's wonderful, wonderful news. God's grace, so beautifully pictured in the Exodus, in God delivering his people from Egypt and bringing them through the Red Sea and bringing them into Mount Sinai. It's an incredible picture of the grace of God. God is leading. I guess it's this, isn't it? Grace means God takes the lead. He takes the lead in bringing redemption and salvation and grace and mercy and forgiveness and acceptance and inclusion. He makes the first move. God, the only God of grace. I love that song that we sing sometimes. Jesus Christ, God, the only God of grace. Grace means God makes the first move. It means that even before you opened your eyes this morning, he was already moving in your life. It means even before we utter our first prayer today, he's already moving in our life. He is taking the first move. He is taking the initiative. You know, whenever we are in a situation where there has been some damage to a relationship, we've had a fight with our spouse or with our friend or whatever, there's always that hesitancy. Who's going to make the first move? Who's going to make the first move? And we say things like, you know, be a man and make the first move or whatever. That passion in us comes from the fact that God is the one who takes the first move. Always. He never waits for us. You know, when we get in a real snit, we might go like, well, I'll apologize if they do. Well, I'll admit I'm wrong if they will. But that's that old covenant of law, isn't it? If they, then I. That's not the covenant of grace. God is the God of grace, which means he always makes the first move. Even before you open your mouth to pray, even before you open your Bible to read, even before you begin to sing that first song, even before you gather at church, God is on the move. God is taking the first step toward you. It's that wonderful story, isn't it? In Luke 15, the father sees that kid and runs. He makes the first move. He doesn't stand there and wait for the kid to arrive. God of grace means he takes the first step. He makes the first move. That's good news. Let's think about that today. We'll talk again tomorrow.